We're going to go live to that press conference right now where officials will announce 2 arrests in the deadly 7-Eleven crime spree.
Let's listen in.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We are thrilled to officially announce a conclusion to this multiple county crime spree that terrorized our neighborhoods, our communities, the innocent folks that are just trying to get from point A to point B, and frankly, all of our police officers, all of our first responders as well. So thank you for joining us. My name is David Valentine. I'm the Chief of Police here at the Santa Ana Police Department. I'm going to introduce everyone that's here on stage with me, and then also introduce those that are going to speak. ATF Special Agent in Charge, Monique Villegas. Chair of the Board of Supervisors, Doug Chafee. Santa Ana Mayor, Vicente Sarmiento. Brea Police Chief, Adam Hawley. Deputy Chief, Los Angeles Police Department, Alan Hamilton. We got Riverside Police Chief Larry Gonzalez, La Habra Police Chief Adam Foster, Upland Police Chief Marcelo Blanco, District Attorney Todd Spitzer. Okay, at this time I'll go over an overview of the various crimes that occurred in San Bernardino, Riverside, and Orange counties. When I conclude and when it's time for the Deputy Chief from Los Angeles Police Department to come up and speak, he will be providing information on yet another murder and several robberies that have a link to this crime series and this suspect. On July 11th, 2022, at 12:11 a.m., an armed robbery occurred at 7-Eleven at 600 North Vine in Ontario. At 1:35 a.m., an armed robbery occurred at the 7-Eleven at 2410 West Arrow in Upland. At 1:50 a.m., an armed robbery and attempted murder shooting occurred at the 7-Eleven at 5102 La Sierra in Riverside. At 3:03 a.m., an armed robbery occurred at Yum Yum Donuts at 2441 North Tustin in Santa Ana. At 3:25 a.m., a murder shooting occurred at the 7-Eleven at 302 East 17th in Santa Ana. At 4:18 a.m., a murder occurred at 7-Eleven at 109 West Lambert in the city of Brea. And then finally, at 4:55 a.m., an armed robbery and an attempt shooting murder occurred at the 7-Eleven at 381 East Whittier in La Habra. This investigation covered extensive work from various agencies, as mentioned before, and thankfully we can bring resolution to this crime wave. Today, July 15th at 1:10 p.m., a suspect was arrested in Los Angeles by the ATF and detectives from the Robbery Task Force, which operates out of the city of Santa Ana. One suspect was transported to the Santa Ana Police Department, and another suspect is being treated in the Los Angeles area. Detectives from the Robbery Task Force represent the Santa Ana Police Department, Fullerton Police Department, Brea Police Department, and the ATF. The suspects arrested: Malik Pat, 20 years old, from Los Angeles. A second suspect was arrested, Jason Payne, 44 years old, City of Los Angeles. They were arrested at 1900 West 23rd Street in Los Angeles at 1:10 p.m. I'd like to now provide you a little more information on the Santa Ana crimes. and then I'm going to introduce the other speakers, and we'll go in that order. On the 11th of July at 3:03, we received a call of an armed robbery at the Yum Yum Donuts. Officers responded. Male suspect entered the donut shop with a handgun, robbed the employee. No one was injured there. At 3:23, we again responded to the 7-Eleven at 300 East 17th regarding a shooting. A male adult victim was located in the parking lot with a gunshot wound to the upper torso. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. This victim was not an intended victim. The suspect was looking to rob another person. This innocent victim stepped in and tried to redirect the suspect. Suspect turns around and shoots our victim, kills him on the spot. While communicating with our partner agencies, we learned that a series were connected and involved possibly the same suspect. All agencies, as I said, worked collaboratively together, leading to the capture and arrest of this suspect. Primary shooting suspect, and then the second subject we believe was also involved assisting the primary suspect in the series. So now what I'd like to do is introduce ATF Special Agent in Charge, Monique Villegas, to say a few words.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. ATF formed the Orange County Violent Crime Task Force approximately 5 years ago. Their mission with Fullerton, Brea, Santa Ana PD, and the Orange County DA's office was to investigate violent serial robberies occurring across the Southland. ATF and the and the Orange County Violent Crime Task Force, with cooperation of all affected police agencies into this investigation, coordinated to work hundreds and hundreds of hours to apprehend these individuals. This team has worked nonstop behind the scenes to ensure that the individuals responsible for these murders and robberies were removed from our communities. The arrest may hopefully give the victims and victims' families some sense of relief, knowing that these individuals are apprehended and removed from our communities. ATF is uniquely equipped with investigative tools, technology, and crime gun intelligence that are used to develop intel-driven resources that can help apprehend violent offenders. These were used to assist in identifying and apprehending the suspects. Like this investigation, ATF will always work hand in hand with our local partners to arrest and prosecute individuals who commit violent gun crime. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to now introduce Board of Supervisors Chairman Doug Chafee.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to begin by thanking the agencies who are involved in a great teamwork effort to result in an arrest of 2 suspects and a great relief you brought the communities with the detention of these suspects. We had 3 counties, multiple cities, we all joined together and you worked around the clock to bring about this result. I'd like to thank all of you for that. We have some victims. On behalf of the County of Orange, I'd like to announce we will be establishing a victim relief fund. On Tuesday, we'll be funding part of that, so the families of the 2 deceased people, if they need some help and relief, we'll help them. And the victims that were hurt by these crimes that were committed, we'll give them relief too. So anyone that would like to join in that fund after Tuesday, you can contact me or anyone else in the Board of Supervisors. We want to be certain that those who are injured are taken care of, because that's a very tragic event that has happened to their lives and to their families. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir. And now the Mayor of the City of Santa Ana, Vicente Sarmiento.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you all for joining us here. Let me begin by just extending our sympathies to the families of the victims and our condolences to the families of those who lost lives. You know, in the shadow of this loss and of this grief, we do want to applaud the efforts of everybody here and those countless names of tireless work that was given to us by men and women who worked very hard on this case. As you know, this crime spree received national attention, regional attention, because of the depravity and the randomness of the act. We will know more in days to come, the cause and the reason why, but it did appear that it chilled really our communities, because we know 7-Elevens are I am certainly grateful for all the work that's been done up here by all the agencies, but I want to thank our department, especially for being, lead on this and helping, knowing that we were impacted, so severely by the act that occurred to the deceased here in Santa Ana. So, with that, thank you all for your hard work. Thank you for your commitment, and thank you for the rapidness, because these things sometimes never get solved, right? But this happened within 5 days of the crimes occurring. So thank you, Chief. Thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Chief Hamilton.
Good evening, everyone. I first want to thank the Orange County Violent Crime Task Force and the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency for their assistance in helping us with this investigation in Operations Valley Bureau of the LAPD. On July 9th, 2022, our Operations Valley Bureau homicide detectives, Efren Gutierrez and Jason Turner, responded to a call of a male victim that was suffering from a gunshot wound to the head in the area of 16100 block of Parthenia Street. Subsequent to that investigation, a determination was made that this closely mirrored the ongoing investigation that was occurring around the Southern California area, and particularly in the Orange County region. Our detectives, working very closely with the task force, quickly determined that this investigation was linked and had similarities to some of the other crimes that had been occurring and some of the other victims that had been victimized here in the Orange County region. Upon determining that the crimes were very closely related, they began working very closely with the task force and made a determination that that crime was linked and possibly related to the ongoing series of crimes that were occurring throughout the Southern California area. Our detectives continue to work closely with the task force and made the determination that this was part of a series and this was closely linked to the ongoing series. In addition to the homicide that we've identified as being involved in this series, we believe that there are a number of crimes throughout the Los Angeles region that will also be linked back to this suspect. So we're going to continue moving forward in that investigation and identify those cases which can be conclusively linked and tied to this suspect and then prosecuted going forward. So we'll continue to work with our partners in law enforcement, and we'll continue to move forward on our investigations that occurred in the city of Los Angeles, and work closely with the task force in assisting in bringing these cases to a successful conclusion. I'd like to close by expressing my condolences to those victims both in Los Angeles and in the Orange County area and throughout the region that were victimized by this suspect, or this group of suspects, these two suspects, and that have suffered a tremendous loss. Our condolences go out from the Los Angeles Police Department to all the victims that have been victimized in this region. Thank you.
Chief Adam Hawley, Brea.
Good evening. My name is Adam Hawley, and I'm the Chief of Police of the Brea Police Department. As we've shared this afternoon, a team of investigators comprised of federal agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and detectives from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, the Santa Ana Police Department, the Fullerton Police Department, the Brea Police Department, and investigators from the Orange County District Attorney's Bureau of Investigation took 2 suspects into custody on charges related to the series of robberies, shootings, and homicides that occurred during the early morning hours of Monday, July 11th. It's important to remember that we're still in the very early stages of this investigation, and that information related to motive and other details about these crimes are pending. We ask for your continued patience and support as our team of investigators continue to do their work. I'd like to just pause for a moment and acknowledge and offer our sincere thanks to all the dedicated law enforcement professionals involved in these cases. Quite simply, the identification and apprehension of these suspects would have not been possible without the cooperation of the multi-team comprised of crime analysts and investigators working on this case. And truly, their tireless efforts led to this successful outcome, and they deserve our sincere gratitude. And last, to the victims and the victims' families, particularly Matt's friends and family, while this arrest cannot erase the terrible trauma you all have endured or fill the loss that you have experienced, I pray that this news gives you some small comfort and peace. These crimes have undeniably broken our hearts, and we want you to know that you have the support of the men and women of the Brea Police Department and our entire community with you in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Thank you.
Okay, we also have our District Attorney, Todd Spitzer, here, who I understand is going to be having an additional briefing early next week on exactly what charges will be filed, evaluated, et cetera. At this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. We will limit those questions, and then we can break off one-on-one for any additional follow-up. So we'll go ahead and get started. Yes, sir.
Chief, we've got about a 100-mile radius of crimes involved. Any one or two single pieces of evidence which narrow these 2 guys down?
Well, without getting into the particulars of conducting these investigations, technology is a big part of it, and that's our partners, ATF, and everybody else involved, really key stakeholders in tracking down pieces of information and linking it together. As you said, a 100-mile radius, that's significant. And then when you include Los Angeles and how far that can go. So yeah, it's significant.
Chief, which one of the suspects was that individual we have a security camera footage of in the mask?
So we believe that is, let me get his name here. I cannot at this point. I don't have it. We believe the mask photo is Malik Pat from Los Angeles, 20 years old.
Where was 20 or 28?
I have 20 years old.
Do you have anything on his background?
I do not. I do not. I don't have it at this moment. Yeah.
Can someone from ATF please address how this happened today? Please describe how the arrests were made, what happened.
I'm not at liberty to discuss that right now. I'm going to leave it up to the chiefs and their respective agencies. That information will probably come out later, though.
I mean, could you say, was it a tip from the public or?
They knew their suspects and they had been following them. Yes.
Chief Valentine, will anyone be receiving the $100,000 reward?
I don't have an answer for that one at the moment. We'll have to evaluate, what information came in, if there was a specific nexus to tip information that led to the arrest. As the ATF Special Agent Villegas said, task force members had been tracking and following these individuals for a bit. So.
Did they live at this address, the West 23rd Street?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did they live at this address? What was the context of where they were arrested?
That's where they were located. I don't know that they actually lived there or how long they had been there, but that's the address of where they were arrested today.
A lot of the manhunt was focused on the idea of one suspect or one gunman. Who is this second suspect? What role are they believed to play? The Jason Payne, who's 44, and what was that person's relationship to the 20-year-old who's been out there?
So again, as was stated before, this is still fresh, and so trying to exactly tie, we know that there was some nexus to the primary suspect. That's why that person is in custody. Exactly what they did and when, that will all continue to come together.
And why is one in LA and one in Indiana?
One was transported, they were both arrested at the same location. One was injured during the arrest and is being treated at a local hospital. Once that's concluded, they'll be transported here.
One more question? Todd Spencer, can you talk about charges, please?
Sure. Before I answer your question, Michelle, first of all, I want to thank the law enforcement partners. This was a reign of terror. To be thinking that you go to a convenience store or a donut shop or a sandwich shop and to get shot in the face, to call your loved ones with your last gasps for breath, or to be a clerk behind the cash register just helping another customer because you're working a job and you're trying to get back on your feet because you've been through the school of hard knocks, you've been an addict, and you're working at a 7-Eleven because they've given you a chance to resurrect your life, and then somebody comes in and feigns a transaction and shoots you and kills you. God bless law enforcement, and quite frankly, God bless these victims, because the journey is over with respect to the detention of these suspects, but the journey has just begun. So let me tell you about what I plan to do, at least preliminarily. You heard from LAPD, you've heard from local law enforcement. There are murder, attempted murder, robbery charges. Some are still outstanding and potentially widespread. We need to connect a lot of dots. But the murder in Brea at the 7-Eleven and the murder in Santa Ana, we plan to file those charges by as soon as Monday. Murder with premeditation and deliberation, while in commission of a felony, which is a special circumstances, which ensures that the primary suspect will have no bail. And so while the public now, as we heard from Chief Hawley, should rest and understand that these individuals have been taken into custody, they need to know that the disposition, at least on this primary suspect, we want to make sure he does not and has no chance of being released. So I plan to work with, I've already talked to my counterpart district attorneys in San Bernardino, Jason Anderson, Mike Hester in Riverside. I'll be talking to Los Angeles officials, and we've already had some preliminary conversations about how we're going to coalesce all these investigations and where we might prosecute them. State law, just so you all know, allows for serial murder to be prosecuted in one county. It does not require that we prosecute all these cases in different jurisdictions. One, to save the victims the trauma of having to testify over and over, and for efficiency of jury and court. So we will have those discussions. But to answer your question, Michelle, it's unequivocally clear that with respect to the murders in Orange County, my prosecutors have been aware of it. My prosecutors have reviewed the search warrants, and they're aware of the evidence up until this point in time. Phil, did you have a question?
Well, I wasn't clear on the connection to Los Angeles. Chief Hamilton, are you saying that this is the same suspect you believe in the murder on July 9th?
And which one?
I thought there were multiple robberies and shootings in Los Angeles you were looking at.
This particular incident that I'm discussing today has been linked to this suspect.
Which one? Which one is it?
Correct. And we're going to move forward on that case, and we're going to continue to examine similar cases that occurred throughout the Los Angeles region beyond the San Fernando Valley. And if those cases are identified as having been involved in this series, we will prosecute those as well. I don't have that number. Yeah, we'll continue to look into it.
Chief Valentine, was there an officer involved or something that injured the suspect today? Can you describe a little bit about the arrest? Were officers injured? What happened?
There was not an officer-involved shooting. I understand there was a minor use of force, and so the person is going to be treated and then transported. So that's what occurred. All right, I think that, go ahead.
Thank you all for coming. This does conclude the press conference. Like they mentioned earlier, they will be available for individual questions. Thank you.